The following program has been arranged by the Division of Game and Fish.
Here is the story of the Bluegrass State's great outdoors.
This is Kentucky Afield.
Kentucky Afield.
Welcome to Kentucky Afield.
Kentucky Afield.
More than 50 years. And still fit as a fiddle.
This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglan.
Oink. A funny word when we were young. Today, though, we see a different sign of swine. Once they leave the barnyard, unless they're on their way to market, they're headed straight for bad news in the outdoors. Wild pigs destroy habitat vital to deer, turkey, and crops. Suddenly, it's not funny anymore. We go inside outdoors with experts on the eradication plan to stick a fork in wild pigs. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
That fish weighed 10 pounds.
10. That's the magic word.
Honey, I hadn't been there 10 minutes.
If he says 10, he's lying. And he says 10 a lot.
You gotta be happy you married me.
I can hear it coming.
Admit it. I'm your perfect 10.
Honey, why don't you take 10?
Tenfold.
Your Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife reminds you, fishing's not about math. It's about fun.
And fudging a little if you need to.
Kentucky Fishing. Be honest.
It'll make a liar out of you.
My life changed forever when I was 13. That's the day a drunk boater ran me over.
Sober boating saves more than lives.
It saves doctor visits. It saves the pain of a mother. It saves nightmares. It saves time in lawyers' offices. It saves stares everywhere I go. It saves a billion awkward situations. It saves endless surgeries. What are you looking at? Sober boating could have saved me. So don't drink and boat.
Kentucky Boating and Conservation officers remind you, sober boating saves lives. Welcome to Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Charlie Baglan. Moles in your yard. They dig up holes and they tunnel through your yard. It's unsightly. You have that picture in your mind. Have you seen this? Now I want you to take that picture and multiply it by 800,000. Now you're in the ballpark of what pigs can do in the fields of the wild outdoors. It's like a bull in a china shop. You wouldn't think of a pig being so destructive, and neither would scattered landowners around the state either, until they saw it with their own eyes. We go inside outdoors today with a look at wild swine in Kentucky and what's being done to eradicate the menace as they break free from farmyards, or worse yet, are placed in the wild outdoors deliberately. With me are John Hast and Terri, Brunjes, wildlife experts. They are with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. Terri, John, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
You know, I think about pigs. I think about farmyards. I don't think about feral pigs and wild pigs.
Basically, wild pigs are a lot of times domestic pigs that have been released or escaped, and they've just gone feral.
Do they change once they become feral? Do they change colors? They change habits? They just don't look the same anymore once they're out fending for themselves.
Yeah, they look a lot different. I mean, a variety of colors, anything from red to white and black spots to solid black. I mean, they look nothing like a farm pig. They're built for the wild. As soon as a farm pig's released, it can live in the wild, but give it 2 generations and it is truly a wild pig that's capable of living there successfully.
We're here today because you have a message to be spread across the state.
Yeah, so our basic message is we want to eradicate every wild pig in the state of Kentucky. At the bottom line, Kentucky is blessed with phenomenal deer hunting. We kill more turkeys per square mile than any other state in the southeast. We've got 2 fantastic success stories on top of everything else, on top of our threatened and endangered species that we're bringing back, on top of general good habitat across the state for a variety of things. Quail, we're working on our grouse plan right now. All these things are there because we don't have a widespread pig problem. When you look at places like Florida, Georgia, Alabama, you have to wonder if some things that are going on down there aren't because they're also feeding a whole bunch of pigs at the same time. So as hunters in Kentucky, really the decision has to be made. Would you like trophy deer hunting, fantastic turkey hunting, a chance at quail and grouse? great waterfowl areas, or do you want to be able to go out and shoot a pig in June that's full of parasites?
Well, they don't get that choice. This is not a indigenous animal to the state that we want to protect, or that we want here. These are invasive.
Absolutely.
And the problems that they are causing is specifically with habitat. They're eating up everything. Mm-hmm. They're tearing up the forest floor. Your predecessor, Stephen Dobie, and he was on the show several years ago, and I found this. These are not the big fat pink pigs where bacon comes from. He said they're like a plague in every state where they occur. These feral pigs are hardy. They can survive in any environment and eat almost anything. He says ecologically, they damage everything they touch. And it looks like someone has actually gone through the forest with a tractor. Mm-hmm. That's hard to believe, but you get out there and Google it, you find photos of this. How widespread, Terri, is this across the state?
Well, our pig populations are not widespread across the state, which is very lucky for Kentucky, but wherever you see pigs and you have agriculture, you're going to have damage. We've had extensive damage in cornfields last year from one sounder. One group of pigs plowed up acres of corn overnight. They've plowed up front yards while people sleep. They've done tons of soybean crop damage. The agricultural damage per year is pretty bad in all of U.S., but like I said, Kentucky, we are starting to see a lot of damage in the areas where we have pigs.
So what counties, what regions of the state are we seeing this more often? Can you even say?
We don't want to bring attention to specific counties because every time we talk about pig damage, we have an influx of hunters wanting to shoot pigs. And the problem with that is our hunters think they're helping, but since pigs are one of the smartest animals, if you shoot into a group, you've just educated those pigs. And then they become nocturnal, they scatter, we can't find them again, we can't get them to go into a trap. So actually hunting doesn't help us. And we usually do ask our hunters to help us with conservation issues. When we have an area with high deer densities, we ask them to shoot more does. But in this case, hunting is not effective. Hunting takes out about 30% of a population. But with the high reproductive potential of pigs, we need to take out 70% of their population every year. And so trapping a whole sounder is much more effective than hunting. So we don't want pigs hunted.
We're using a new word here, sounder. When I think of sounder, I think of the horn that blows at the end of a football game, or maybe a storm warning siren. But a sounder, that's
just basically a family unit of pigs, and it's going to be a couple of older, mature sows. It's going to be maybe 2 to 3 generations below that. In a family unit, they're more than likely all related. And then on top of that, we've also, you may have a sounder in an area, and then you may also have a group of boars that are kind of out on their own, doing their own thing. Typically when we trap, we'll be able to catch the entire sounder and then follow that up with catching the boar group.
About how many would you expect to be in a sounder?
Oh, I'd say 8 to 30 maybe.
Bunch of pigs. Mm-hmm. So the rules don't apply to me, I'm going to say, because I'm like, well, they're saying it's well and good, but I don't think that really applies to me, and so I'm going to go out and shoot one. What if the pig is by itself?
Yeah, and that's where we get that fine line. A lot of times the most mature of the boars will be by themselves. Great pig to shoot. But it's hard not to have just a blanket statement on what we're going to ask hunters to do. It's one of those things that we have worked on, I would say, 5 to 6 properties this winter, and all 5 or 6 of those property owners admitted to liking pigs 3 years ago when they showed up, and then they haven't killed a turkey since, and they don't know where all their deer are. What that essentially did, and when I hear that from a landowner, I know we're in for a tough chore getting rid of those pigs. We're going to have to use a lot of our tools to do it. Those pigs are smart. They're 100% nocturnal. We can run a trail camera over bait for a month and never get a daylight photo of a pig. Also, as soon as the human presence is introduced to them again, we may never see them again. We may scatter them 2 miles and never catch up with that sounder again, or spend 6 months looking for them. They're very smart, and they're very sensitive to humans on the landscape, more so even than a Boone and Crockett whitetail buck, in my opinion.
I don't want to play devil's advocate, but it'll sound as if I am. Pigs are good eating. I like bacon. I like ham. I love a rack of ribs. Would these wild pigs also be just as tasty?
Yeah, they do taste different, but they are pretty tasty. When we trap pigs, we give them to the landowner, and they very often cook them and eat them. We tell people to make sure you cook them to 170 because these pigs, unlike our domestic pigs, these pigs can carry many diseases that are transmissible to humans. So make sure you cook it good.
Mm-hmm. And we say this with when you're field dressing and cleaning any wildlife, you really should wear a pair of rubber gloves. Most of the time during deer season, I've got a cut on my finger from somewhere from field dressing a deer, but especially with pigs, your best bet is to wear rubber gloves.
That makes sense. We'll stop there. We need to take a break. Up next, we'll take a look at exactly what the law says about turning pigs loose in our wild outdoors. Stay tuned. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. We are back on Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Charlie Baglan. Wild swine experts in Kentucky, Terri Brunjes and John Hast. They're in the guest chairs today, and we're discussing wild pigs that have been illegally placed or set free from farm operations. It's just a piggy, it's no biggie, you might think. But fellow landowners and wildlife itself think otherwise. So, what does the law say? I saw on the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife website, in Kentucky, it's illegal to possess, transport, or release live, wild, feral, or Eurasian pigs for any purpose. And it's got the KRS number out there. My wife always reminds me, if somebody wasn't violating that, there wouldn't be that law. That law's out there because somebody's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. All of our pig populations are the result of illegal releases. They're so spread apart. These pigs didn't naturally expand. They were specifically brought in by a truckload and dumped.
So like a coyote, and they are gradually coming into the state, even though they're here. But they came in on their own. Yeah,
they came in their own, so pigs would be the opposite of that. When we look at our populations across the state, they're separated, each population is separated by 100 miles in some cases, and that's not a group of pigs picking up and moving.
Right. All captured pigs must be killed before being moved from site of capture.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because you don't want to accidentally let that pig escape while you're transporting it. When you trap it, you kill it while it's in the trap.
Yeah, we had a system in place for several years where we had a cooperator agreement with landowners where we would purchase them traps and trapping equipment, and that played into that a lot. We've sort of gotten away from that system into us and the USDA handling the majority of the trapping. That system works a little bit better for us. But landowners can still trap and help out with their pig problem.
Are they reproductively established in this state?
Yeah, they're reproductively established about anywhere you put one. It takes very little time. They can have 3 litters in just over a year. That can be anywhere, in a year's time, 15 to 20 piglets. They're
Well, it's a lot like rabbits.
Yeah, well, we killed one and opened it up, and she was nursing piglets and pregnant again.
That quickly?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, and then the young are reproductively active at about 6 months of age, so very quickly can get out of hand.
The Fish and Wildlife Web also said the intentional release of domestic swine is illegal, so there's a fine involved.
Definitely.
What can somebody face? Jail time? Fines? What's that?
Normally fines in the cases that we've been able to take care of. And that rule gives Fish and Wildlife some teeth, and we use it mainly for people that were raising pigs in an agriculture setting but weren't keeping a good enough fence to keep them in. That's when this is most used. It's good motivation for that farmer to fix the fence or to gather the pigs back up. We don't want to see swine getting loose. Farmer has interest in keeping them in as well, and sometimes that's just enough motivation to repair parts of that fence and keep those animals up.
We said something a while ago, Terri, you were talking about this, that pigs would come through, a sounder would come through and destroy many acres of crops, and it looks like a tractor had gone through the forest. They're rooting for something.
Yeah, they're rooting for grubs, they're rooting for roots, tubers. Basically, they eat anything. Anything they can get in their mouth, they will eat. Earthworms, grubs, tubers, roots, birds, fledglings, nestlings, bird eggs, salamanders. They're really hard on amphibians and reptiles. Basically, they'll eat anything. They're not picky.
When did this first become prevalent in our state?
In the 90s, we had an established population around Dale Hollow Lake, Cumberland County, and those areas, and deer hunters would kill a few. We actively removed some from that area, and that's more or less petered out. We get very minimal reports from down there. On the Tennessee side of that area, there are a few that they're working on eradicating. But it was really about 2006, 2008 that we had a major situation in far western Kentucky in Hickman County. And if anybody's been down there, that's prime row crop agriculture. There's sensitive wetland areas on parts of the creek systems that run in off the Mississippi River there. And that area was just a serious situation, major crop damage. People wanted it gone. And that's also our best success story. That's how, through what we learned eradicating that population, I'm confident we can do it in our other populations. Pretty well deemed that population eradicated last year. We had no pig reports. There may be one ghost pig that's running around down there, but people are on the lookout. There's tons of deer hunting and trail cameras up down there, and there are no pig reports. So that's truly a success story. And that was about 2007, 2008 was really the tipping point. We were able to hire a pig-specific biologist at the department and up our surveillance, and through that, we picked up a couple of other little cores across the state. A few have since more or less blossomed and then been beat back down through trapping and removal efforts. Others, our removal efforts are still ongoing.
This was draconian in nature, was it not, when you finally got that one population removed? It wasn't just a matter of going out and setting a few traps.
No, it wasn't.
Can you talk about how all this came about?
Yeah.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture, I know, had a hand in that.
So the USDA got a $20 million grant across the United States specifically for pig removal. And that's been great. They were able to hire extra staff, buy extra equipment. Here in Kentucky, we've got 3 pretty much pig-specific guys working. They have some other duties, but they're associated with the USDA. They do some airport work and some other nuisance wildlife work, but they're specifically there to get rid of pigs. At the same time, the Department of Fish and Wildlife was able to up what they could provide in terms of traps, in terms of equipment, in terms of staff. It's been one of those things. The key to our Hickman County population was we had 100% buy-in from everyone in that community. Farmers, hunters. The local municipality down there actually hired a night shooter that his job was to spot pigs from the roads and go out there and kill them. And they had permission on every property. It wasn't that they were limited. And that really is the recipe for removing a pig population, is buy-in. Everyone wanted those pigs gone.
Aerial gunning was a part of this.
Absolutely.
It sounds like
important.
Warfare, actually, John, Terri.
Yes.
Was that part of it?
It was, and we still use that today. And I actually got to go out this last winter and watch the aerial gunning, and it's nothing like you would expect. Everybody seems to think of like D-Day or Rambo hanging out of the side of a helicopter, but it's really not like that. It's safe. It's the helicopters fly low enough to see the individual pigs. They shoot them with a shotgun. They have permission from every landowner that they fly over to shoot pigs. Every private landowner knows exactly when they're coming, so they're not shooting in the middle of cattle. They're very safe, and I was very impressed with it, but it's nothing like the shelling the beach on D-Day.
And it's very effective.
It's very effective,
certain places, and that's also what we use to more or less census our pigs. So in Hickman County, the first flight, they saw 400 and killed 230, I think, if I remember the numbers off my head. The next winter, they saw 50, killed 30, and the winter after that, they saw 7, killed 7. It's a good measure of success.
You didn't want to list counties or regions of the state, but could we narrow it down? Are there 5 hot spots in the state? Are there a dozen?
Yeah, we've got right now, we've got 4 hot spots with active removal going on, plus another that we're starting to pick up reports at, and likely this winter we'll be surveying and maybe doing some work in that area.
So right now you would say this is certainly controllable.
Yes.
Versus
absolutely.
Yes.
This is not a...
Kentucky can eradicate all their pigs with some hard work and with, like he said, the public buy-in. If we get support from the public, then we will be successful at eradicating pigs in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. I know the Asian carp people wish they had it as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are on the northern range of pigs, and that helps us out a lot. Our southern states are probably never going to be able to eradicate pigs, but our populations are small enough. We only have a few, so if we get on it now, we can definitely eradicate them.
That makes me want to ask you, where else? Where is it worse? What states really have a plague of these?
Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Texas, definitely.
Southeastern
Louisiana, yeah, basically. Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody else has it far worse, 10 times as worse. But we have 4 hot spots. What do they have? A state full?
Statewide.
The occupancy in the majority of counties across the state, yeah. Pigs also tend to stick towards your creek and river corridors, so that helps concentrate them a little bit in those areas.
So if you're fishing, you might see one.
Absolutely.
I bet you, if I were on a stream side and I was fishing or paddling my canoe and I saw a pig, must be a farm nearby. Probably might not give it any further thought. But the truth is, better safe than sorry. Report the sighting and let those in the know sort it out. Speaking of fishing, our weekly fishing report is just ahead. Then back to wrap up the conversation on wild pigs in our state. And plus, we'll talk a little bears. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Baglan back. We're in our second half hour, and if you'd like to hear this show again, it's easily done. Go to our Facebook page, type in Kentucky Afield Radio. There you'll find our weekly links. We're also on YouTube, plus an iTunes podcast. Find us there. More on the pig program. First up, our fishing report.
Hi, this is Eric Cummins with your Southwest Kentucky Fishing Report. Barren River Lake bass are hanging in about that 15-foot zone near the thermocline. Crankbaits and Texas rig worms on points and channel swings and those transition banks, either in changing substrate or depth, are good spots to try. Early and late in the day, our best times with the night bite best with dark-colored spinnerbaits, jigs, or worms. Barren and Green River are always good bets for some smallmouth and rock bass action this time of year, if flow is right. Also, don't overlook Fagan Branch trout at night under floating lights with bait or spoons in that 20 to 30-foot zone. As always, good luck and good fishing. Be sure your life jacket's got your back.
This is Kevin Fry with your Eastern Area Fisheries Report. A lot of good reports from anglers after catfish lately. Tickling or hand fishing doing well with catches of flathead, in-channel catfish in area lakes. Also, anglers catching blue catfish fairly well on jugs with cut shad or other bait fish at Dewey Lake. River reports continue to be good for channel catfish on trout lines. The tailwaters below the dams at area lakes also producing catfish well, and some occasional crappie. Largemouth fishing has had little daytime success. Best catches have been occurring at dusk and shortly after into night hours. Topwater lures or plastic worms or spinnerbaits rode slowly on bottom getting some fish. Yatesville and Dewey Lakes having some additional shoreline bass caught on crankbaits at night.
This is Tom with your fishing report from the Northeast. We have been in the process of finishing up our large-scale habitat project on Cave Run Lake, and I'd like to thank all of our volunteers who have assisted with the project, especially the folks who work with Chris Mann at the Department of Juvenile Justice and the folks who have come out from the Frenchburg Job Corps. I'd also like to mention that we will be continuing heavy habitat work on Cave Run Lake for years to come, so if you're fishing a spot and you like it, let us know. As we finish up with this summer's new habitat sites, all those will be uploaded to the website as quickly as possible, so stay tuned to our Northeast District Twitter page at KYFisheriesNE and the Cave Run Lake Habitat Project website, which you can find by searching Cave Run Habitat at the top of our main department page, fw.ky.gov. That should do it for us. Wherever you go, good luck, stay safe, and stay cool. Thank you.
I didn't know when I woke up that morning that birds would stop singing or the sun would stop shining.
Alex Audie, 13-year-old survivor of a collision with a drunk boater.
By all accounts, I shouldn't be here. But before that first scream or the care of the first responders, the first thing that saved my life was my life jacket.
Life jackets.
They're like little angels. They lift you up.
Kentucky Boating and Conservation Officers remind you.
Your life jacket's got your back.
In the news, whales have been spotted in Kentucky waters. We have an expert standing by on the water's edge.
Oh, there goes the bobber. Set the hook.
Daddy, it's a whale.
Way to go, buddy.
Childlike wonder for the outdoors. It still exists. Where to go, what to take, and how to get started are waiting at the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife website, fw.ky.gov. Take a kid fishing. Don't let the opportunity get away. We're back on Kentucky Afield Radio in our second half hour. My name is Charlie Baglan. Today we're discussing wild pigs in Kentucky. John Hast and Terri Brunjes are state wildlife biologists. Of course, deer season starts up Saturday, the second day of September. And if you're putting up trail cameras to see what deer is on your property, you might spot some pigs. If you do, let us know. Call the Department of Fish and Wildlife and report it. And one of the big items to get your head around isn't just how destructive they are to woodlands and crop fields, but the fact that they multiply like they do. Nature tells me that if something multiplies that quickly, like these pigs do, that they're prey for something else. So there's a predator missing.
Exactly. Because they're invasive species, they didn't evolve here, so there's no predator that's evolved to handle this.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be here, so there's nothing here to control it,
So
and that's why we have a problem.
It would be wolves then.
Yeah, you could take where these things are native, Central Europe, the Eurasian wild boar. They likely were preyed upon by wolves. They were preyed upon by brown bears in those areas. And we didn't have that associated predator-prey thing going on here in North America. Pigs were not here until the Spanish conquistadors brought them over in the sailboats.
I'm just compelled to say something about the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to an Arkansas game, but I remember was at the game, and I went up and said, it's a big boy. It's a big dude.
Yeah.
Is that, if you could imagine a Razorback hog like Arkansas has as a mascot, is that basically what we're seeing in the woods here in Kentucky?
We've got, like Terry said, we've got a mix of a little bit of everything. And because our populations aren't connected together, we've kind of got different looking pigs in different areas. The true Razorback is a Eurasian wild boar. The Razorback is essentially like foot-long guard hairs kind of running down the middle of their back. When a dog kind of raises the hair on his back, that's what these Eurasian wild boar will do. Most of ours don't have that characteristic.
And I will add that most people see these pigs and think of wild boars as these really big, huge, scary, dangerous animals. But they are smaller. Generally, they're smaller. We're looking at 100 to 150-pound pigs, generally, not the 400 to 500-pound pigs that people think of. They have to search for their own food, and they're not sitting in a barnyard being fed. Mm-hmm. They don't get as big as a domestic pig.
Would they be the size, say, of a German Shepherd?
Most of them would be smaller than that, I would say. Certainly heavier, but not as tall.
Yeah.
Certainly.
For the size. You get a 150-pound deer on the hoof. It's tall. A pig is stout, and they weigh a lot for their size. I was always surprised when we go to lift one into the back of a truck that we've trapped and shot. Oh, that's not as small as it looks.
I like the days of Porky Pig when pigs were cute. Mm-hmm. Pigs were sweet. Pigs were bacon. I want to go back to those days, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
This is more than a two-person task. Has to be. But here the two of you sit. What kind of staff do you have? What kind of support do you have in the field?
I tell you, USDA has been a huge support. They're the ones that are trapping the majority of our pigs because they're full-time in the field. and they're assigned to specific regions. They've been key to success, definitely.
Yeah, we've had a good relationship. A lot of times Terri will search for pigs, get landowner permission, and then depending on the magnitude of that issue, we'll either set a trap ourselves, have some of our regional staff work that trap, or we'll more or less hand it over to the USDA. We're giving them the big hole sounder catches, and we kind of more or less consider ourselves cleaning up the scraps. And that's been a good, just given the expertise that we've got, that's been a good working relationship there.
So this is a multi-agency.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it can go all the way down, I'm going to guess, to maybe the local farmer co-op or sheriff's department. I'm just assuming.
Yeah, all the way down to the original, the landowner himself. I mean, those a lot of landowners that we're working on will check traps for us, bait trap, run cameras for us, do those kind of things, just to help us, especially if they live on that property.
Well, it's one thing for us to sit here and talk about it, but there has to be some action on the ground, some getting this message out there. What are you doing specifically to educate the population?
We've started an educational campaign, and we are working on those specific areas with pigs, just trying to basically get our message out that, one, please report pigs, trying to get people to report pigs, not shoot pigs, and just let us trap pigs. We want the message out there that, these pigs are bad news for farmers and hunters. We've been doing presentations across the state, articles in our newsletters as well as newspapers, local newspapers. We are getting ready to start going door to door and hanging door hangers in these problem areas just to get the word out and have people call us if you see pigs. That way, our limiting factor is we need to know where these pigs are, and often people are so used to dealing with them that they don't call us. So if we could just get people to call us, then we can get on the ground and get rid of them.
So in a sentence, it's report, don't shoot.
Report, don't shoot.
And for anybody joining us late, why don't you shoot?
Just because pigs are so intelligent, when you shoot at a pig, it scatters, it leaves the area, it goes nocturnal, and it basically completely stays away from humans, including traps. So basically, they become so much harder to catch if you shoot and miss.
How well is your message being received out and about?
I think people are responding well.
Yeah,
Don't
absolutely.
You?
I spoke to the League of Kentucky Sportsmen a couple of weeks ago at their annual meeting, and it was well received once it's explained. And it's
sure.
I'm a hunter. I worked a couple summers in Texas. Pig hunting is phenomenal fun, and that's the part that scares me. A lot of times the initial reaction is not what I'd like, but after we explain what's going on, then they start. People can pretty easily see the whole picture and see the trade-offs having pigs and not having pigs. I think it's important just to talk through issues like that, and we've got enough folks that used to like pigs and they hate them now that I can normally find somebody that's had actual experience with a pig problem to help convince some people.
So what's it got to take for this to get out of hand? If you get these 4 or 5 hot spots under control, will others pop up, and can we prevent that?
Yeah, we do have other pig sightings in other areas, and they pop up, but usually our private lands biologists will just take care of that problem pretty quickly. So that's a huge help. Without them, we would have new populations of pigs. So we have a lot of help.
It's one of those things. Just recently we got a call from a sod farm just outside of Louisville that had 2 to 3 pigs running around. We were able to, within 2 weeks, go in there and get those out of there. So it's little things like that we've just got to react to quickly and have the tools to get rid of them.
Are wild pigs a danger to people?
Any wild animal is a dangerous animal, especially if it's cornered. Generally speaking, a wild pig, like other wild animals, if it sees a person, it's going to run away. It's going to just get out of the area. But yes, if it's cornered, if it feels in danger or if it's protecting its young, it can definitely be dangerous.
It's like a bear or anything else.
Yeah, but they aren't out to attack humans. Generally speaking, they're going to run.
I saw in the Lexington Herald Leader, and this was January of 2012, pigs destroy crops and forests. There's a quote from a landowner. He said that the wild pigs have been roaming his farm for about 5 years. They go through your fields, and they tear it all to pieces. This is a big job. You're going to need some technology in your pocket. What do you have?
Yeah, so we've got some things, and some of these things are available to the average person, but most people don't have them.
Night vision?
We run night vision and thermal scopes, and that's something that we do very judiciously. We're not out, roaming every night shooting, but it's something that can be applied surgically, as I like to call it, when we've got some trap shot pigs and we've got 2 or 3 more to get out of a sounder, and they won't go in a trap. Those are primed to be shot at night. We run suppressors on all of our rifles. We know from tons of research in the Southeast that pigs are incredibly sensitive to gunshots. Gunshots equal people, equal pigs getting shot. So when we go in to clean a trap out, as we call it, after we've caught pigs, we do that as quietly as possible. And we have really high recapture rates. If we miss part of that sounder, we can get the rest of them if we go in and do things quietly. We're not in there blasting them with a shotgun and making noise and running trucks and buggies all over the place. So, and really, I think our most important piece of equipment is a door that we can remotely drop. So we've got trail cams feeding us live photos of what's going on in the trap, and then from any of our smartphones, we press a button and the door closes. And the key to that is I can watch for a couple nights before we are actively going to catch them. I know exactly how many pigs are in the sounder. I know kind of their behavior when they go in the trap. Do they roll right in? Do 5 of them stand outside while the younger ones eat? And I know that when I count, if there's 17 coming, when I count 17, I drop that door, I've got them caught. And that's critical, because just like a hunter shooting 1 pig out of a group of 20, I don't want to catch 1 pig out of a group of 20, or they are never going to come around that trap again.
They wise up in a hurry.
Absolutely.
And you're doing this one for one reason, because they just tear up the land. They just destroy the habitat. Mm-hmm. Will that habitat ever recover?
Yeah.
I assume it would eventually, but...
Yeah, it definitely can. That's the interesting thing about nature and ecosystems is they're really resilient.
John, Terri, walk me through the process. I call you and say, hey, I've got some pigs in my property. What number did I call? Who do I report this to begin with?
Call our 800 number, 800-858-1549. Let us know how many you're seeing. And we can definitely come out, take a look at it, set some cameras up to determine how many pigs you have, how bad the problem is. Then after we set the cameras, if we determine that, yes, there are pigs there, then we can go through and set a trap. We'll get rid of those pigs in that area.
We'll be back to wrap it up, plus take a look at black bear in Kentucky. It seems like the first place a bear is going to show up is on the news. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. We're back on Kentucky Afield Radio in our final few minutes with Terri, Brunjes, and John Hast. They head the Feral Swine Initiative for our state. It's a big job. John, I guess I should ask, is there a fee for your services?
No, completely free.
So you'll put up the cameras, you'll bring out traps, and do you need some specifics from me, or is that just handed over to you with that telephone call?
We work very closely with the landowner, so we've got off-road UTVs. So I'm a landowner myself, so I definitely understand somebody else coming onto your property. It's one of those things that I don't want somebody four-wheeling a pickup truck with a trailer across the field or, something like that. So we're very mindful of that. Our pig traps are about 25 feet in diameter. We'll set them on the edge of a field somewhere with decent access, and most of the time you don't even know we're there.
People who are likely to see these may be the farmer, maybe who else? Deer hunters?
Deer hunters.
People
we get a lot of reports during deer season.
Dove season. When you're on the landscape, you're out there to fish or to hunt or to hike or Boy Scouts camporee. Those are the people. You kind of have to be out. They're not going to be in neighborhoods.
Not often.
Every once in a while, if you have a riparian area, creek, or a wooded area near a subdivision, you could have a pig or two come through. Usually that's a pig that has escaped from a farmer in the nearby area, and that's just enjoying its freedom, running around. And that pig will be more likely to go to a neighborhood just because they're newly escaped, they're not fully wild. Those are situations where we have a pig near a neighborhood.
Not time to downplay. I mean, hunting's incredibly important, just not for pigs. I've used the term that hunters are good conservationists, but not good eradicators. Great-great-grandfather's generation eradicated plenty of stuff, but not now.
Well, that was unregulated hunting.
Right.
So, John, then in summary, you talked about you want good deer hunting, you want good habitat, you want places for bears to roam and turkeys to roost. And if you have pigs, you're less likely to have that because they just go through and utterly destroy the habitat. And that's probably the part of the message that a lot of people are missing.
Yeah, the main message is pigs just don't coexist with anything. And we see it every time we put a camera up and get pigs on bait, is you will not see anything on that bait except pigs. And it's sort of an indicator for us when we get all the pigs removed, the trap's still up and there's still corn in it and we're thinking there may be some more around. You start seeing deer and turkeys show up to that trap, it's a guarantee there are no more pigs around. And that's been the most profound example of this. So it's something that we as hunters, our money, our participation in the sport has brought back deer, turkey, elk, has helped rebuild habitat, and bears have moved back in, among other things, quail, grouse, all those. But at the same time, the hunter is not effective at complete eradication of pigs. That's just part of it that's been well established. The hunters out there in Kentucky can help us by reporting pigs, can help us by understanding that pigs are a detriment to everything else that's out there and native to Kentucky, and they can help us by joining forces against pigs. That's really the key.
Must be healthy woods out there. John, if I can change the subject a little bit before we close the show, woods have to be full of food. This summer I have not heard a lot of bear reports. Are they finding the food they need in the woods this summer? What's the story?
I think they are. I mean, of course, our population is growing and expanding, so more bears equal the potential for more nuisance issues, as we call them. We've had a record-setting nuisance year in our far southeastern core counties, and that's got a little bit to do with we think they came out of their dens a little bit earlier, given the rather mild winter that we've had compared to the last couple. But as far as bears, we had some very interesting bears move into central Kentucky last summer. One that went to Indiana and one that hung out at Burnham Forest just southeast of Louisville last summer. And this summer, we've had a few bears out in central Kentucky. We had one go through Jessamine County, and we had one over around Taylorsville Lake, but they just haven't garnered the same attention, which is good. It's something that central Kentucky residents need to understand is going to happen occasionally.
Bears don't concern me. I'm glad they're out there, but of course I don't live in bear country. Mm-hmm. Somebody else may, but I suspect if you live in Hindman, Kentucky, you're probably just used to this. You know to keep your trash in. You've grown up with this.
Yeah, right? We're constantly trying to get that message out that few minor changes in your lifestyle, you can live peacefully with a bear, and that really involves mainly keeping your garbage secure, whether you keep it in an outbuilding, keep it in the garage, put it out the morning of pickup. That's our main generator of nuisance calls, are bears that are getting in garbage.
John, Terri, thanks a million for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Still a few minutes left in the show. Email from Lisa. Lisa Tolliver heads the Fish and Wildlife Information Center, and she will email me regularly news releases. First up, wild turkey harvest. This was going on last spring. Total harvest of 33,061 wild turkeys. That's a 6.5% increase over last year, making the 2017 harvest the third highest on record for the state. So how'd your county fare in the total spring harvest? The top 5 counties are Muhlenberg County, 682 harvested. Logan County, 663. I know Logan has taken the top spot in recent years. Pulaski County, 610. Hart County, 606. And Ohio County, 556 gobblers taken. When comparing the numbers of turkey harvested per square mile per county, what was the number one? Wasn't Muhlenberg. Pendleton County. We're on in Pendleton County. Pendleton County was first, followed by Campbell, and then Bracken County. Archery season for fall turkey, September 2nd. Circle it. Email from Lisa. Likely you've heard about this or saw it in the news. Conservation officers save a life. Fast action by Fish and Wildlife Conservation officers saved a life of a volunteer. This was in mid-June at a Northern Kentucky sporting event for kids. Everyone is proud of these officers, says Greg Johnson, the Fish and Wildlife Commissioner. Their training and their quick response turned a potential tragic situation into one of hope. It was at Youth Fest at Lloyd Wildlife Management Area. This is in Crittenden, Kentucky. Sergeant Scott Horn was assisting with the event. He saw a volunteer with the Boone County Bowhunters Club collapse to the ground. Horn summoned Chris Fawcett, who was also a sergeant and a conservation officer, who radioed for an ambulance. Horn and Fawcett couldn't detect a pulse. He immediately began chest compressions. Charles Phillips placed a CPR mask on the victim. EMS survived on the scene after 10 or 15 minutes, and thanks to the work of these conservation officers, we have one happy family. Email from Lisa. We are out of time. This is Charlie Baglan. Thank you for joining us. Join us again in a week, and we'll go inside outdoors again here on Kentucky Afield Radio.